They're laughing, loud academic belly laughs that ricochet off marble columns. In the middle of the lecture hall stands 14-year-old Mason Fields, skinny hands locked around a battered mop handle like it's the only thing keeping him upright. His dad, Earl, keeps his eyes on the swirling bucket, praying the floor might swallow them both. A physics professor wipes tears from her eyes. We appreciate the enthusiasm, son, but this is advanced stuff. Phones rise, flashes pop, and Mason's embarrassment rockets into half a dozen faculty group chats. An hour earlier, the building had been empty, filled only with a sharp scent of lemon cleaner and chalk. That smell is Mason's favorite. It means the day's thinking is done. The boards are blank canvases again. While Earl empties bins, Mason studies the scribbles professors leave behind, memorizing symbols the way other kids memorize song lyrics. Tonight, the campus crackles with extra electricity. Nobel laureate Dr. Victor Albrecht is visiting Cornell University, and Lecture Hall A is packed to the rafters. Earl was told to mop the back aisle quickly. Mason tagged along, eyes wide. Albrecht strides in, hair white as steam, and drags a fresh stick of chalk across 40 feet of slate. Integrals nest inside summations. Greek letters hook one another like fish. A hush falls. When he finishes, he underlines the final symbol. 40-year, he announces. No one has closed this loop. Solve it by Monday and you have a fully funded internship under me. Tuition, board, the works. Gasps ripple across the benches. Mason feels the numbers hum inside his chest. Without thinking, he steps forward, mop water sloshing. Sir, he squeaks, shouldn't the upper bound account for decoherence in the third term? Silence heavier than lead. Then laughter detonates. A professor in corduroy snaps a photo, captions it, Custodian's kid wants to play Einstein, and hits send. Earl grips Mason's sleeve. Head down, he whispers. But Albrecht tilts his head, intrigued. Before he can speak, the dean hustles over. Apologies, doctor. Staff children aren't authorized here. She herds father and son toward the door while professors smirk behind their laptops. In the corridor, Earl sighs. You didn't do anything wrong, but these halls aren't built for folks like us. His smile is tired. Mason doesn't answer. Through the glass, he can still see that white river of chalk. Something inside refuses to retreat. He pockets a discarded nub of chalk, a spark in his pocket. While they finish the shift, trash, vacuum, recycling, Mason's phone buzzes. Classmates have already reposted the meme. One text jeers, stick to sweeping, Einstein. He swallows the sting. Mom, gone 3 winters now, used to teach multiplication on grocery receipts because notebooks were a luxury. Earl would come home smelling of wax, kiss their foreheads, and whisper, education's a light nobody can turn off but you. The memory steadies him. The laughter still rings, yet the equation calls louder. After midnight, the building empties. Earl grabs coffee and heads to buff the rotunda. Mason slips back into Lecture Hall A. The board glows in dim light. He steps onto the low stage, heart rattling, and erases only the faulty segment. In its place, he writes a single corrective term. The line settles on the slate like a final puzzle piece. The door creaks. Corduroy professor reappears, phone streaming live. Caught him defacing university property, he declares. Torchlight blinds Mason. Instinct says run, but Earl's job and Mason's own dignity hang in the balance. I'm not vandalizing, Mason says, voice shaking yet clear. I'm correcting. Really? A janitor's boy? The professor sneers, but the camera tilts toward the board. Mason points. Check the boundary condition. Your divergence cancels. Corduroy's smirk falters. Doubt seeps in like water into drywall. The chat on his stream lights up with laughing emojis and a handful of wide-eye icons. If Mason is wrong, every sneer cements forever. If he's right, a 40-year wall is about to crack. Down the hall, Earl pauses his buffer, sensing a strange tension in the air. The deep, vibrating hush that arrives just before lightning splits the night. The campus sleeps, but Mason is wide awake. It's 1:47 a.m. The lecture hall door gives a faint metallic sigh as he slips inside. Alone, except for the echo of his own heartbeat. He clicks off his dad's borrowed flashlight and lets moonlight spill across rows of empty seats. Dust motes hover like tiny satellites. The big chalkboard still holds his midnight correction, a single white scar across 40 feet of black slate. He runs a fingertip over the line. Cool, solid, real. One problem. Proof isn't a single stroke. It's 1,000 carefully aligned steps. And right now he owns only the first. In the corner stands a tall, walnut filing cabinet. 3 drawers, each padlocked, stamped property of Corwell physics depth. Rumor says it houses every dead-end paper on Albrecht's equations since 1985. Mason's breath fogs the air. Did Mom once say knowledge is a locked door waiting for the right key? Tonight he carries an actual one, a slim brass skeleton from Earl's maintenance ring, tagged B112. Symbolic, sure, also practical. He holds it up, shakes a little. Slot, turn, click. Inside, brittle folders, sepia diagrams, coffee-stained journals. The top file reads Q-loop divergence analysis, V.G. Patel, 1985. His pulse surges. Fingers tremble as he opens it. Pages smell of mildew and ambition. Scribbles in red margin ink. Fails at boundary layer? Must revisit decoherence term. He flips faster. Finds more notes, more dead ends, but also fragments. Half equations like broken constellations. Patterns emerge. He snaps photos, stacks pages, stuffs them into a backpack meant for textbooks he can't afford. The corridor lights flicker. Automated timers think it's sunrise already. Mason slips out, locks up, wipes prints, and glides downstairs where Earl's buffer hums a sleepy rhythm. Dad doesn't see him. That's good. Less explaining. Outside, dawn bleeds pink over Gothic spires. Mason bikes home, nearly falls asleep at red lights, mind racing through symbols. Saturday dawn to Monday morning, 48 hours. Solve or be a meme forever. He barricades his bedroom door with a cracked dresser, whiteboard balanced on milk crates. Energy drinks line the windowsill like soldiers. Hour 4, chalk dust on knuckles, eyes burn, equation sprawls across 2 IKEA wardrobes now repurposed as boards. Earl knocks, offers eggs. Mason mumbles thanks, barely chewing before scribbling again. Online, the ridicule multiplies. A physics grad student tweets, Corwell janitor kid thinks he found a boundary fix. Adorable. 12,000 likes. Comment, maybe he should boundary clean my floor. The word stab, but inside that sting hardens into fuel. Hour 15, caffeine crash. He slumps against the wall, numbers swimming. He pulls out Mom's old grocery receipt math sheets, edges faded. Her looping handwriting steadies him. Break the problem into friendlier pieces. He inhales, exhales, stands. Hour 23, he discovers Patel's 1985 side derivation can replace an entire tensor field if transposed correctly. Chalk squeaks, a pivot column aligns. He laughs, half joy, half exhaustion. Sunday noon, the dean emails Earl. Your son's unauthorized access and continued disturbance will result in security removal if he sets foot on academic property again. Earl sets down his coffee like it's suddenly poisonous. Mason refuses to break momentum. I'm close, Dad. Earl's eyes brim with both fear and faith. He nods, whispers, then finish it, son. Late Sunday night. Mason's vision blurs to kaleidoscope. He sets a timer to blink every 90 seconds so corneas don't dry out. He remembers middle school bullies chanting, "Trash baby Mason," after discovering his dad's job. Those voices mix with the professor's laughter, then with Albrecht's heavy German baritone offering brilliance a home. Tuition, board, the works. The promise pulses like a second heartbeat. Hour 36, pages litter floor like snow. Backpack folder open. The 1985 notes are center stage. He finds a margin scrawl Patel circled twice. What if decoherence equals self-cancellation? Mason gasps. His earlier correction matches this abandoned idea. 2 eras shaking hands. He rewrites everything clean, each line measured, logical, undeniable. QED illuminates the final margin at 3:12 a.m. Monday. He checks. Checks again. No leaks. A dam of certainty holds. But victory's fragile. Proof in a bedroom means nothing to the ivory tower gatekeepers. He needs to stand under their lights again. Yet the dean has threatened expulsion. Mason packs the board's photos, folds Patel's sheets, tucks Mom's receipts in his back pocket like armor. He steps into the hallway. Earl waits, wearing the custodial jacket, eyes fierce. He hands Mason an old ID lanyard. They want to call you a janitor's kid? Fine. Walk in with your head high. Let's mop the floor with their doubts. They exit into the pre-dawn, street lamps buzzing overhead. Storm clouds gather above Corwell's towers like gray battalions. 40 years of failure versus one determined teenager. 12 minutes remain till doors unlock for the colloquium, and Mason is done hiding. The clock blinks 11:58 p.m. on Saturday, but to Mason it's neither day nor night, just another sliver of borrowed time. Chalk mist hangs in the air like low fog. Crumpled notebook pages tumble across the floor every time he spins from board to desk. He grabs dinner from the only place still glowing, the physics building vending machine. The stale chips taste like cardboard impossibility. He writes, erases, rewrites. Chalk nubs shrink to white pebbles under his fingers. Symbols scatter across 4 stolen poster boards taped into a crooked mural. Multiplication sings. Fractions snarl. His brain hums at a pitch reserved for hummingbird wings. A memory intrudes. 7-year-old Mason struggling to thread a shoelace. Earl kneels beside him on their sagging couch. Voice gentle. Son, knots look messy before they look neat. Keep pulling the strands. Mason exhales, pulls the mental strands tighter, and keeps writing. Hours melt. One by one, the hallway lights clack off on motion sensors, leaving only the glow of a dusty desk lamp. He shrugs deeper into his hoodie. Another flashback rises. Earl teaching him how to paint baseboards in a rented apartment. Dad moves the brush in slow, sure strokes. Patience pays twice, once now, once later. Mason steadies his chalk like that brush. Slow, sure. Midnight slides past. His eyes blur. He forces them open, but numbers ripple. Doubt pours in. Maybe the professors were right. Maybe brilliance doesn't grow in borrowed classrooms. He pictures classmates laughing at the meme. Heat crawls up his neck. He wipes sweat with a sleeve already powder white. The door creaks. Mason startles, nearly drops the chalk. A soft voice drifts in. Could have sworn I smelled curiosity. Miss Alvarez steps through, cardigan sagging, silver hair coiled in a loose bun. She's the night shift librarian, guardian of dusty journals and overdue hopes. Thick spectacles magnify kind eyes. I thought the library closed hours ago, Mason whispers. It did, she smiles, lifting a heavy ring of keys. But some stories refuse bedtime. She studies the board, recognition sparking. Is that the Albrecht divergence? Mason nods, ashamed. I'm trying to patch the boundary term, but everything collapses. Alvarez moves closer, fingers tracing the air where chalk lines shimmer. 40 years ago, Professor Patel and I nearly cracked a workaround. Her voice turns conspiratorial. Administration pulled our funding, said it wasn't publishable without a full solution. Mason's heartbeat stutters. You co-authored Patel's 1985 notes? She chuckles. Co-authored is a grand word. I was a doctoral assistant who wrote in blue ink while he argued in red. She opens her tote, retrieves a fragile folder sealed with twine. I kept a copy. Thought someone, someday, might care. He handles the pages like museum glass. Margin annotations dance. Blue, red, back and forth. One half-finished proof stops him cold. The layout mirrors fragments on his own board. Your matrix rotation, it cancels out if you treat decoherence as self-interference. Alvarez raises a brow. You saw that? Patel suspected but never proved it. Mason's pulse charges. The cancellation creates a symmetry break, leaves a narrow path to closure. Alvarez sinks into the nearest chair, suddenly decades younger through sheer excitement. Show me. Montage unfolds. Chalk snaps, chalk returns. Mason speaks in bursts. Alvarez completes sentences. Vending machine coffee steams between frantic scribbles. Their partnership feels like passing a baton across generations. At 3:30 a.m., Their mural has grown monstrous, equations stitched together like Frankenstein's quilt. Mason steps back, dizzy. The board glows with half a heartbeat. The middle third remains unresolved, a gaping canyon between two elegant shores. Alvarez pinches the bridge of her nose. Pattern is there. We're missing one transformation, something simple enough to be invisible. Mason remembers Earl wrapping a leaky faucet with plumber's tape. Dad said, "Most leaks hide in plain sight." He scans the chalkboard, eyes skimming symbols until they blur. Then an almost imperceptible rhythm in the exponents. A two-beat, one-beat, two-beat cadence. Like footsteps, he circles a cluster of terms. What if we treat this exponent pair as a step function, not continuous? Alvarez leans closer, whispers, "That would pivot the whole field." Mason draws the new outline. The equations glide into alignment. They stop short of QED. One final integral refuses to settle, like a stubborn note at the end of a song. He exhales sharply. "We're close. I can feel it." The old librarian's eyes gleam. "Close is farther than anyone's reached since '85. Keep going, child." Mason squares his shoulders, feels the weight of the laughing professors, the meme, the threat of expulsion. He also feels Earl's unseen hand on his back and Mom's phantom voice urging courage. He lifts the chalk. The classroom clock clicks to 4:02 a.m. The board waits, half solved, wholly alive. They're down to shards of chalk and borrowed heartbeats. Mason's wrist aches, but the equation is breathing, thrashing, nearly alive. Exponent, derivative, cancel, pivot, rewrite. Ms. Alvarez calls out numbers like a drummer counting time. Mason slams them onto the board. Symbols ricochet. His pulse hammers at double tempo. 2:46 a.m. Integrate. Substitute. Carry the phase term. 2:57 a.m. One blank space glares back. A missing tooth and a perfect smile. Mason tastes copper. Fear or determination? Hard to tell. He stares. Breath short. A single variable refuses to align, stubborn as rust. Alvarez whispers, "Think small. Think leak." He thinks of plumber's tape, tiny spirals, thread-sealing metal. Patel's margin notes flash in his mind, two arrows chasing each other's tails. Eyes widen. Self-iterating feedback, he mutters. Chalk scrapes. The uncooperative term becomes a recursive limit. The line snaps into balance like a door finally catching its latch. 3 a.m. time freezes. Both of them step back. Chalk dust drifts in slow motion. The board is whole, an unbroken river of logic pouring toward a single destination. Silence. Mason hears only his heartbeat, deep and resonant, filling the hall like distant drums. In that quiet space, the weight of 40 years lifts. He sees Earl wiping sweat from his brow, sees Mom smiling over grocery receipt fractions, sees 1,000 jeering faces fading into static. The board does not laugh. It glows. He takes the final piece of chalk, steadier now, and writes 3 letters. QED, no exclamation point. The proof needs none. Alvarez exhales, a trembling laugh turning into a sigh of wonder. "You did it," she whispers. Mason blinks, half expecting the symbols to scramble. They remain fixed, proud, undeniable. Hands shaking, he pulls a battered 8 gig flash drive from his hoodie pocket. Scratched, half the casing chipped. He plugs it into the lectern computer, photographs every panel of the board, stitches the images into a PDF, then copies it to the drive. Redundant backups. Earl always empties 2 trash cans in case one rips. He tucks the flash drive beneath his insole, close to the ground, safe with every step. One last photo. He frames the board, taps the shutter. The screen captures the white river of chalk ending in those 3 proud letters, lit by the eerie green of the exit lamp. Proof forged in alien fire. Alvarez leans against a desk, hand over her heart. Patel would have been thrilled. Relief weighs more than fear ever did. He lets it settle, heavy and sweet. Minutes slide by, unmeasured. Practical thoughts intrude. The dean's threat, the colloquium in 6 hours. He needs sleep, a clean shirt, courage. He erases nothing, leaves the board as testimony, gathers crumpled pages into a neat stack beneath the tray, a breadcrumb trail for doubters. Lamp off. In the dimness, chalk drinks the moonlight and seems to glow on its own. Mason steps into the corridor. The hallway is silent, but he feels an invisible crowd at his back. Generations of failed attempts rooting for the janitor's kid. Outside, dawn's first gray threads unwind across the sky. Cool air fills his lungs, crisp and honest. Across campus, custodial carts clatter. Earl is somewhere among them, pushing through another graveyard shift. Mason imagines placing the flash drive into his father's calloused hand, watching disbelief melt into pride. Tonight the professors laughed. Tomorrow they will stand. He grips his backpack strap, feeling the drive against his heel each time his foot strikes pavement. With every step he repeats the same sentence. It's solved. It's solved. It's solved. He rounds the corner, shadows peeling back before the coming sun. Behind him, in Lecture Hall A, the equation sleeps at last, whole and unafraid. Mason and Earl stand at the foot of Corwell's granite steps just after 8:30. The air smells of wet earth and fresh coffee. Mist clings to the quad, but inside Lecture Hall A, the lights blaze. Cameras already rolling for the Monday colloquium. Students file in wearing hoodies in doubt. Faculty cluster near the podium, amused, ready to be entertained at the janitor's kid's expense. Earl adjusts the collar of his custodial jacket like it's dress blues. "You sure?" he asks. Mason taps the heel of his shoe. The flash drive presses back. "It's solved," he breathes. They push through the doors. Noise hits like a wall. Hundreds of eyes swing toward them. Some chuckle, some pity. A few recognize the quiet fury in Mason's posture and choose silence. The dean intercepts them halfway down the aisle, high heels clicking a verdict. "We made ourselves clear," she says, voice low but sharp. "Security is outside." Earl moves between her and his son. "We came to clean up a misunderstanding," he answers, tone polished by years of polite deference, yet edged with iron. "Won't take long." Before she replies, Dr. Victor Albrecht appears on stage, snow-white hair bright under fluorescence. He peers through spectacles, intrigued. "Is that the young man with the boundary correction?" A microphone squeals. The room hushes. "Yes, sir," Mason says. The word trembles but doesn't break. Albrecht gestures. "Then let him speak. Science is no monarchy." Mason climbs the steps. Phones rise like metal lilies. The same live stream professor, Corduroy, swipes to record, hungry for a sequel to last night's meme. He plugs the flash drive into the projector laptop. Screens behind him bloom with photos of his chalk wall. A collective gasp. So many symbols, so meticulously aligned. "Good morning," he begins, voice amplified, steadying. "The solution starts by treating decoherence as self-interference." Slide 2 appears. Patel's 1985 sketch layered beside the corrected term. Corduroy laughs. "Show us the algebra, prodigy." "I intend to." Fresh chalk feels lighter now. An ally, not a weapon. Quick strokes recreate the skeleton of the proof. Each time chalk meets slate, he explains in plain English. Sign errors, pivot columns, hidden symmetry breaks. Heads tilt, brows furrow. Laughter dwindles. Albrecht folds his arms, leaning closer, pupils dancing after every line. Another professor whispers, "He's canceling divergence in real time. Impossible." Halfway through, the dean mutters to a colleague, "Even if it's right, it's unauthorized work." The mic catches it. Students hiss. Miss Alvarez slips in the back. Mason meets her gaze. Strength borrowed, paid forward. Equation nears the chasm that stumped everyone since '85. Mason draws the recursive limit, the plumber's tape spiral. A visible shiver ripples across the front row. Corduroy lifts a hand. That limit diverges. Mason clicks to slide 4, a zoom derivation using Patel's notebook plus his own substitutions. "Only if you ignore phase locking," he replies. "Observe." He underlines the locking term. The line balances. The board hushes. Seconds feel like hours. A pen drops somewhere in the balcony. Albrecht steps forward, takes the chalk, runs through the last 8 lines silently. He sets it down as though it's glass. QED. he says softly. No one breathes. The Nobel laureate turns to the crowd, voice suddenly thunderous. Ladies and gentlemen, your field just advanced, courtesy of Mr. Mason Fields. Applause bursts like fireworks after a long blackout. Students rise first, then hesitant faculty, until even the dean claps, slow, begrudging, but audible. Earl stands in the aisle, tears brimming, mop handle forgotten. Cameras pivot, capturing raw pride. Corduroy fumbles his phone. Live stream still running. Comments scroll. Genius janitor kid. Respect. Albrecht addresses the dean. About that internship. Paperwork today. Full scholarship. Housing. And his eyes sweep Earl's badge. A tuition benefit program for staff families. Effective immediately. The dean's mouth opens. Closes. We'll discuss. Albrecht smiles, predator-friendly. We just did. Cheers echo. Mason's knees threaten betrayal, but Earl pulls him into a hug that anchors the spinning world. For a moment, everything slows. He smells floor wax and chalk and new beginnings. The last 3 years of living in secondhand silence transform into applause, vibrating in his bones. He exhales, long and even, and the noise fades behind the heartbeat in his ears. He solved it. And the universe, at least this crowded corner of it, knows. News vans ring the quad before sunrise on Tuesday. Tripods sprout like metal weeds, each pointed at Corwell's sandstone archway, where yesterday a janitor's son nudged science forward. Floodlights bathe the steps in relentless glow. Mason wakes to the static hum of a television in the living room window of their tiny apartment. Earl left it on, still in uniform, slumped in the recliner after a double shift he never felt. The screen shows a loop, chalkboard, applause, a teenager hugging his dad beside a mop bucket. The lower third banner reads, Custodian's Kid Cracks 40-year physics riddle. Mason slips outside before Earl can stir. Every passerby seems to know his name. A campus security guard, one of the same who eyed him for trespassing, tips his cap. Heard you're the reason my pension just got a tuition clause for my twins. Thanks, kid. Gratitude warms, but also burdens. Promises carry weight. Inside the physics building, interview requests pile like fallen leaves. Reporters want the meme-to-miracle storyline. Mason obliges, but only after they agree to film in the custodial break room, battered lockers and all. He answers questions with quiet clarity, always circling back to patience, perseverance, and unsung labor. Every time a camera turns off, he asks the crew, "Do you know the name of the person who cleans your studio every night?" Most shrug, embarrassed. Message delivered. By noon, Corwell's board convenes an emergency session. The dean, eyelids twitching from lack of sleep, proposes a modest scholarship. Albrecht raises an eyebrow. That solution is worth at least a dozen patents. You'll invest more than modest. Mason sits between Earl and Miss Alvarez. Neither was officially invited, but both walked in as though seats bore their names. Murmured disapproval quickly dissolves under the harsh light of viral scrutiny. A trustee in an expensive suit flips through printed tweets. Public optics require generosity. Fine, full ride. Room, board, stipend. Mason clears his throat. It isn't enough. The room tilts toward him. He feels the same tremor he felt holding chalk before writing QED, but steadies it with the memory of Dad's tired shoulders. He speaks slowly. There's brilliance sweeping hallways, serving lunches, guarding doors. Corwell can be the first university where the staff's children attend tuition-free. It costs less than one corporate naming deal. Silence thickens. A different trustee starts to protest, but the live stream red light atop a news camera perched in the doorway glows like a warning beacon. Phones across the table buzz in real time. Public sentiment is a loud guest. Vote passes, tuition benefits for all full-time staff families, phased in over 3 years. Earl squeezes Mason's hand hard enough to hurt. Miss Alvarez lets out a small triumphant wheeze, then digs an ancient blue pen from her purse and signs the first page of the motion in Patel's looping handwriting. Tribute disguised as clerical duty. Outside, rain begins. Soft summer rain that taps rhythm on camera umbrellas. A student crowd gathers chanting Mason's name, but he waves them quiet. "This isn't about me," he says into a dozen microphones. "Every mind deserves a chance to prove the impossible." Reporters eat it up, of course, but some faces in the crowd change. Mockers from last week, now sheepish, maybe inspired. Change often starts as reluctant respect. That evening, a local network airs a 2-minute human interest segment. Shots of Earl polishing brass rails, Mason scribbling equations on a pizza box lid, Miss Alvarez unlocking a dusty archive. A final voiceover frames it as proof that talent can rise from any corner. Ratings spike. Patents talks follow. Albrecht's research group schedules a private meeting with Mason. They want exclusive rights in exchange for co-first author credit. Mason listens, glances at Earl, then negotiates licensing terms that earmark 10% of future profits for a custodial scholarship endowment. Albrecht smiles like a proud grandfather. The lawyers grimace, but nod. While contracts bounce between inboxes, Mason wanders back to Lecture Hall A. The board is cleaned, maintenance had to prep for morning classes, but the ghost of the equation lingers. He sets a single fresh piece of chalk on the tray and writes one word where QED used to be. Begin. Because solved problems birth new ones, and that's beautiful. Footsteps echo. Corduroy professor enters sans phone, humility draped around his shoulders. "Mr. Fields," he says, voice thinner, "I'd like to audit your notes, properly this time." Mason hands him a copy of the PDF. The professor bows slightly. Progress measured in millimeters, but millimeters add up. Night settles. Earl meets Mason at the quad fountain. They sit, shoes soaked by overspray, speechless under haloed lamplight. Finally, Earl speaks. "Your mom would have danced tonight." Mason nods. They watch reflections of campus lights ripple over dark water. Each ripple widens, touches the next. Simple physics, profound truth. Phone buzzes, comment notification. "I'm a cafeteria worker at another college. After your story, our students started a petition for staff scholarships here. Thank you." Mason smiles, pockets the phone, lets the weight of impact settle. The laughter that once chased him down hallways is gone, replaced by a quiet expectation, an invitation to keep pushing boundaries. It's heavier than mockery, but it feels like purpose. He stands, stretches sore muscles, and heads home beside Earl. Tomorrow there will be lab tours, patent talks, maybe even big city headlines. Tomorrow there will also be floors that need mopping, and Mason knows his dad will still swing that mop with silent pride, because dignity isn't tied to titles. It never was. A breeze shakes the trees, sending droplets onto their shoulders, unplanned applause from the sky. Mason tilts his face upward and whispers a promise only the wind hears. "This breakthrough will never belong to me alone. I'll spend every equation making sure of that." The cameras are gone now, their cables coiled and packed away. Yet the campus still hums with a faint afterglow, like a bell rung so hard it keeps singing long after the striker rests. Mason finds himself alone in the faculty garden under an indigo sky, fireflies winking between trimmed hedges. The marble statue of Corwell's founder looms nearby, stern and white, but even its stone gaze seems softer tonight. He closes his eyes and hears echoes, the crack of chalk, the roar of applause, the steady hush of Earl's mop gliding across linoleum. They braid together into a single low heartbeat. He thinks about how quickly life pivots. One moment you're an invisible kid carrying cleaning rags, the next you're the reason scholarships sprout like spring green after a storm. But beneath all that noise, one truth sits quiet and sure. Worth isn't granted by committee, it's grown every time you refuse to shrink. Footsteps scuff gravel. Ms. Alvarez appears, cardigan buttoned wrong in her haste. In her hands rests Patel's weather-worn notebook. "Thought you'd want the original," she says. Mason hesitates. This book is history, and history is fragile. But she presses it into his palms. "Guard it, yes," she adds, "but also add to it. Leave space for the next custodian's kid who wanders in after hours." He nods, throat too tight for words. She drifts away, and the garden settles again. Mason sits on a stone bench and flips through the pages. Blue ink, red ink, coffee rings. Then blank sheets waiting, expectant. He feels small beside that open expanse. And that's the point. Equations end in proofs. Stories don't. They spill forward, seeking new hands. A soft clatter behind him. Corduroy Professor kneels beside the statue, arranging 3 janitorial buckets in a neat row. He's volunteered for tonight's cleanup crew, trading tweed for latex gloves. No cameras, no audience, just sweat and humility. Mason watches him scrub algae from the fountain's rim. It isn't penance exactly, it's something quieter. Recognition that service is neither low nor high, just human. And in that realization, Mason hears the lesson ringing clearer than any lecture bell. He slips Patel's notebook into his backpack and heads toward the residence halls. Every doorway he passes reminds him of people whose names are printed on small, uncelebrated ID badges. Names that deserve corridors of their own. Tomorrow he'll draft a student-run program, pairing undergrads with staff kids for tutoring. Not charity, collaboration. Brilliance, after all, multiplies when shared. Near the quad's edge, familiar footsteps fall in beside him. Earl's shift ended hours ago, yet he still wears his work boots. He motions toward the academic quad, now glowing gold under floodlights. "She's a pretty place," he says. Mason smiles. "Prettier on scholarship, huh?" Earl laughs, a deep rumble that rolls away stress. Then he pauses, voice low. "Proud of the math, sure. Prouder you didn't let them laugh you silent." They reach home, climb the narrow stairs, and stop outside their apartment door. Earl grips his son's shoulder. "Remember, floors need shining tomorrow. Titles don't change that. Keep your head high when you walk past a mop bucket. Never above it." Mason answers, "I won't forget where the brightest reflections start." It's a promise etched deeper than chalk. Later, window open, night breeze tugging at curtains, Mason lines a fresh page in Patel's notebook with 3 words. Listen, learn, lift. Underneath, he writes his own date. The ink feels heavier than any variable he's ever balanced, yet steadier too. He leans back, phone in hand, scrolling through thousands of comments. One sticks out. "I clean dorm bathrooms. Watching you reminded me my daughter's dream of engineering isn't crazy." He replies, "Tell her the universe is waiting for her questions." He sets the phone down, letting the glow fade, and closes his eyes. A final thought threads through the quiet. Every laugh aimed at someone's beginnings is just a signal, a flare marking where potential hides. Find those flares, fan them. The world will blaze brighter for it. Voice calm now, he records a short video message to post in the morning. "Hey, if you've ever been mocked for aiming higher than people thought you should, drop your story below. Let's turn their laughter into a playlist of proof. And if you believe every mind deserves a fighting chance, tap that like button so the algorithm learns what respect sounds like." He hits save, not upload. The lesson isn't complete until dawn carries it forward, and dawn is only hours away. Outside, somewhere in the dark, a maintenance cart rattles along concrete, wheels squeaking a measured rhythm. Mason listens, smiles, and drifts into sleep to that steady lullaby. The sound of unseen hands keeping the world turning, one polished floor at a time.